Hello, this is Katie. Welcome back to my channel. I am going to be showing you a loose watercolor floral kind of bouquet. I started out by following a tutorial from Let's Make Art of a loose floral situation. I'm going to link that down below. I started out by following it. The video kind of it takes too long to progress. I need like a quicker tutorial. Where they're painting a little bit faster. I suppose I could have sped it up, but there are a lot of pauses where she's talking about things. And when I'm painting things like that, I just need something a little bit faster. If you see me reaching up, I'm reaching for my mouse because I'm looking at the video on my laptop. And so I sped this up 2x, and I'm using my Mungyo watercolor palette that I really like for florals. And so what I did was I took this small canvas that I got at Michael's and I coated it in watercolor ground from Core, which is QOR, and let it dry. And it probably needed more than one coat. I put like maybe 2 coats worth, but I put it on all at once and it probably needed to dry and have a second coat. You can see that it's kind of bleeding out. It's not behaving like it would on maybe watercolor paper. Which is fine because this is just kind of an experiment. I wanted to put the watercolor ground, which if you're not sure what that is, basically you can turn whatever surface you want into a watercolor surface. I would maybe, based on what I'm seeing, recommend letting it dry and then adding a second coat of it. But it essentially looks like white paint, and you're coating something like a canvas that isn't for watercolor, although watercolor canvases do exist. So if you want to look into those, feel free. They're newer. It's a new idea, basically. This is just a normal canvas that you would maybe use acrylic or oil on instead if you wanted a better, more precise look. But I wanted to test coating one in watercolor ground. So another idea is like those wooden branch pieces. They're cut into slices, like for Christmas ornaments. I'm going to coat those in watercolor ground and test that out as well. So turning any surface into watercolor paper, essentially. This still turned out, I ended up liking it, although it does have, it is kind of bleeding, you can see. But what you can do is also just go over it once it dries, go over it again with more detail, which I do in some of the areas. So you'll see that as well. Also, this flower was supposed to be like a 5-petal flower in the tutorial I'm watching, and I ended up with space for 4, which is fine. I really like the pink with the yellow in the center, though. I think that turned out really cool. So as you can see, the 2 like roundish flowers have pretty well bled out, and here I'm trying to get a hair out of the painting, which is easier on a canvas, because whenever I try to do that on watercolor paper, I end up ripping the paper pretty badly. So now I just don't bother trying to get any hairs that have floated into my paintings off of my watercolor paper, unless I can grab it with my brush. If you get the water out of your brush, you can usually pick up the hairs a little bit easier. So I'm kind of just mixing a bunch of random colors. I'm still kind of basing this off of the tutorial that I will link below from Let's Make Art, what hers looked like. But it is also loose, and what I ended up doing was fast forwarding to the end of the video, which I think is what I just did, and pausing it on the finished piece. So I could just look at it and eyeball it and kind of try and copy the layout a little bit, which I didn't entirely. Mine's a bit different, but that made it a little bit easier for me than following along with the whole tutorial. So we will get some green leaves in here. I know I don't really need to discuss every little thing I'm doing, so hopefully I can just give you some tips along the way. This palette, I'll also link it down below. You can get it on Amazon. It's about $39, $40. I actually already have a second one, This is my first one because it's the one that I had the swatch sheet in, so I knew which colors. I actually don't even know if I looked at it for reference, but it was tucked into this palette. So here in the pink, you can see I'm adding more detail like it's a rose. And then just to bleed out some of the edge detail, I'm going to just go in with some water and spread that out a little bit. This was like the intentional look from the beginning. So again, on this, you can go over it a second time with more detail. There are a number of sections on this painting that end up just looking a little bled out. You can see the first set of green that I laid down coming out is bleeding out a little bit as well. I really like dropping yellow into the green leaves. I like how that ends up looking. And so I do that on a number of leaves in this video. I'd like to try, I have two, this was a packet of 2 canvases. I'd like to try coating the other one in another layer of the watercolor ground and see if that helps at all. It's really just kind of like a toothier cold press paper. I guess it's, I mean, the canvas has a lot of texture, but I think a second layer would probably help a lot. So I'll probably still try that. And then for the little pink bundle of flowers I was doing off to the left, I was just counting, so I had an odd number. I think I ended up with an odd number. Yeah, I did 9. Odd numbers just tend to look better. Odd numbers of things. It must be some sort of mathematical brain thing that I don't understand. But I do the same with cards and embellishments and things like that. I think I mentioned that in a previous video. So this whole layout was very like peachy, pinky tones, which I really like. My favorite pinkish tone. I mean, my favorite color is teal or turquoise, but I like peachy pink and coral a lot. So sometimes I'm just taking 2 colors already on my palette and mixing them to get, like later, if you see the 2 colors, the one I'm mixing right here and then like kind of the orangey peachy above it, I end up just taking some of the orange peach and moving it to the pink and vice versa. This is it right here. And just figuring out which one of the 2 I end up liking better. So I'm just kind of mixing them between each other. And then I was creating another little bundle of flowers off to the right. So I end up playing with colors a lot, just mixing them all around. And that's one of the things that I love most about watercoloring is all of the combinations. You can come up with anything you want. So I put a darker color on the tip of these, and then I just went in with some water on my brush, some clean water, to kind of bleed those out. And when those dry, I actually really like how those turned out. So I was very happy with that. The picture as a whole, I ended up liking as much as I was going to for the bleeding out that it was doing, but that's okay. I wasn't going in expecting this to be perfect. I wasn't even going to film it, but I figured since I could watch the tutorial on my laptop, which I usually need some point of reference, even if it's just a picture of a loose watercolor floral that someone did, because I think I've learned enough of the techniques to do it just by looking at a photo. Not saying it's just as good, but if I can watch the tutorial video on my laptop and film with my phone, I figured I might as well show you in case you are interested in doing any watercolor at all. Watercolor florals are just very easy and loose. That's why they're very popular in the watercolor community, because you can kind of just paint whatever you want. You can paint flowers that don't exist. They don't have to be real. You can get a flower book and paint what you see if you want to paint real flowers. There are plenty of watercolor floral books out there as well. So you can actually see watercolor examples of real flowers. That little red bunch might have kind of bled together a little more than I would have liked. But I think they're just one of the easier things to paint because a bundle of flowers in nature, or even a precisely made bouquet, can look, I don't know, it's just a bundle of colors, and you can paint it and it can still look like it. I think flowers are one of the few things where you can paint it so abstract and it will still look, you'll still know what it is, if that makes sense. And that's why there's a lot of watercolor flower tutorials, and that's why a lot of people paint them. It's definitely one of the first things I started with, which is so funny to me because I can't really stand doing or dealing with floral stamps when it comes to card making. I was never big on floral stamps. I have a few now, but it's not my favorite thing to stamp or, put on cards. But when it comes to watercoloring, it's just a lot easier, especially abstract. But yeah. If you're still thinking about getting started, I recommend this palette. It has a lot of beautiful colors. I don't know what these purple flowers are. I'm just putting something purple down because that corner was missing something. This palette has a lot of great pinks, reds, a couple purples. I know purple is a difficult color to deal with when it comes to watercolor, or blending for that matter. Lots of greens for your leaves. I'm not great with leaves. I do need some more leaf practice, but these are pretty abstract. And a lot of them have kind of a brown stem running through them to give them some more definition as well. So, yeah, hopefully this was at least entertaining. And if you end up painting anything, you should let me know down below. And I will link the video that I was looking at. I'm just going to sign the corner here. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.